posture. Some brilliant work around posture. So what we know, and I know you all know this, is that posture is really, really important for our well-being. And the reason it's important for our well-being is not only is it important for our bodies, you know, for our musculoskeletal system, but it's important for our energy and the way we think as well. So we know that that maintaining a really good posture really helps us with maintaining a flow of energy. So I want to just do some practical work around posture. And I know you will probably already know this, particularly any of you out there who have done any yoga or Pilates. I mean, I absolutely would recommend, you know, trying to do some something like that if at all possible. You know, it's one of the things that I've always thought. You know, I took up doing yoga about 3.5, 4 years ago, and I wish I'd have taken it up 25 years ago. But we sort of know really what the right posture is, but sometimes that just, we sort of get out of the habit of sitting and standing correctly. So this is an opportunity for us just to put ourselves back on track. Okay, so what I would like you to do, if at all possible, is to stand up. Of course, you don't have to do that because I can't see you, but it'd be great if everyone stands up and just shakes their legs a little bit. And one of the reasons why that's a good thing to do is that sitting down is actually quite an unnatural thing for human beings to do. Again, there's plenty of research on that. So it's handy for us to stand up whenever we can. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some postural tips now. And again, I'm sure that many of you would be aware of these. So some postural tips here. I think I'm going to stand side on this way. Hopefully you can see me here. Well, I think you can. Okay, so just some postural tips. Firstly, looking down at your feet. So this is posture when you're standing, and we're going to go on to looking at posture when you're sitting down. So generally speaking, our feet should be hip distance apart, and they should be even. Our feet. My feet aren't even. I've got one foot that you can't see my feet from here, which is good because you'll see the socks that I've got on, which is not good. So your feet should be even. They can be pointed out slightly, or they can be parallel. They shouldn't really be pigeon-toed, sickled. And what happens with me is I've got one foot that's straight and another foot that's slightly pointed in. So I have to keep reminding myself. And it's actually because of my hip. I've got one hip that opens out really a lot and another hip that doesn't. So your feet should be hip distance apart, and they should be in line with each other. So just moving up your body. When you're standing up, your knees need to be soft rather than really rigid, and your knees need to be soft. And for those who've done Pilates or yoga, you'll recognize this talk. Your pelvis, you should imagine that your pelvis is a bucket of water. We have a bit of a tendency to stand on one hip, to sort of stand like that, or even to sort of stand a bit forward like that, or to sort of slouch like that. We should imagine that our pelvis is a bucket of water, and what you're trying to do is to keep that water really level. Imagine it's a full bucket of water. What you don't want to do is to tip that water. So you might need to bring your pelvis in a little bit. You might need to change its shape change its position, just so the water level is not tipping over. Really, to get really good posture, you need to work on your postural muscles. The postural muscles are the core muscles, and things like Pilates and yoga do that. So your pelvis is absolutely level, so that the water is level. And if you move up to your body here, shoulders should be further back in posture than most people do. We have a bit of a tendency to hunch. I know that I do. So a shoulder should be a little bit further back. Imagine that your shoulder blades are sliding down into your sort of back pockets here, if you've got back pockets, and your arms nice and relaxed. And one thing that is really, really important is a real learning point for me when you're standing, is to make sure that your chin is parallel to the floor. So you don't need to stick your chest out, but your shoulders need to be back, pelvis in the right position, nice and relaxed, and your chin parallel to the floor. And I find that when I'm in that position, then I find that I'm able to stand for long periods of time, and I find that I have lots and lots and lots of energy. And really, since I've really been working on posture, it's made such a difference to my energy levels. And I actually learned a lot about posture from actors who were telling me how they were able to maintain energy levels. But I find that I can move around, because when I'm moving around, I've still got my my body in the right sort of position. I find that there's so much energy in me, and I know that it will do for you as well. Okay, so when you're standing, those are some tips. And seated, let's just think about seating. I'm just going to, sorry, I've just got to take my notes off of there, which is probably not a good move. So here's, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to just move my chair over here. Yeah, I think you can see it. Okay, so what I'm doing now is showing you that when you're seated, what you've done in your standing posture needs to be replicated when you're sitting down. So when you're sitting down, and this is so difficult, and I know I don't do this, I end up slouching, moving to one side, and that's probably what's caused my side strain at the moment. So what you're doing is trying to make sure that your hips are actually back as far as they can on the chair. Your legs need to be, the idea is that they're at right angles. If you're sitting on a standard chair, they should be at right angles. So your feet underneath your knees, so nice and relaxed. Your shoulders need to be back, your chin parallel to the floor, and you should be working or typing like that, or on the phone or like that. People tend not to. I know I tend not to. I slouch over. I do this. I'm doing this a lot. I'll do this as I'm talking, and all of that does is it affects your body and it drains your energy a little bit. So nice and straight, nice and relaxed, talking. On the phone, do we use telephones anymore? I don't know. Talking, you know, to the camera, to Zoom, keeping your head level, keeping your feet level, keeping your legs at 90 degrees, keeping your shoulders level, trying to keep your shoulder blades back, and working in this way. And here's the other thing that we have a tendency to do a little bit. When we stand up, we tend to go like this. So we tend to pull ourselves up, and none of that is great for our body. I sort of do that. So when we stand up, we really should imagine that somebody's pulling us up by a bit of string, so straight up like that. And it's really worth reminding ourselves of these tips all the time, because this really, really will help us. Remember, any questions, put them into the chat box. Okay, you can sit back down now on your chairs. Trying to make sure that you've got your hips back to the back of the chair, that you're sitting up, that your shoulders are back, that your legs are at 90 degrees, and that your chin is parallel. And I know that it's hard to do all the time, but if you keep reminding yourself of these things, keep reminding yourself of these little tips, then again, it's all these little things add up, and they do make quite a difference. Okay, as I say, please, if you've got any questions about posture, stick them into the chat box. But my challenge to you is to practice it. My challenge to you is to practice posture, to be self-aware as you're sitting there now, because we've had a little bit of a chat about these things. As you're sitting there now, I'm sure that some of these things will be going through your mind, you know, because you're now sort of aware. And so you're now making these little adjustments. As we had these discussions, you're making these little adjustments. So every so often, just remind yourself of the correct position, and you'll automatically make those adjustments.